Thank you, Coach Allison, for joining me today. Coach Allison is the offensive coordinator at Kenyon College here in Ohio. Coach, if you wouldn't mind giving like a little brief background about yourself for those who don't know who you are.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you first of all for having me on here today. Coach Bandstra, I really appreciate it. And so, obviously, I'm Coach Allison. I'm the offensive coordinator at Kenyon College, located in Gambier, Ohio. We're about 40 minutes northeast of Columbus, Ohio. And so, previous to the 2019 season, I was the wide receiver coach at McAllister College up in St. Paul, Minnesota. Prior to that, in 2017, I was the full-time wide receivers coach at Truman State University in Missouri. Before that, in 2015 and 2016, I was the wide receivers at GA at Bemidji State University up in northwest Minnesota. Prior to that, I was the DB's coach in 2014 for the University of Wisconsin River Falls. And then my first college coaching job in 2013, I was the DB's coach at St. Louis College. Played my college football at the University of Minnesota as well.
Yes, and it's kind of one of the first things I wanted to ask about was your tenure at Minnesota. You had the opportunity to play for Coach Brewster and Coach Kill. Kind of what most did you learn about from them in terms of coaching and how you approach every day and coaching today?
Yeah, definitely. They're definitely two very different coaching styles. Where Coach Brewster, he was very much business-like. He got the face of our program. Was willing to do whatever it took for our program to be successful. And then you had Coach Kill, who was a player's coach, as you hear from his reputation, and everybody that has either played under him or worked for him. So, he obviously wanted to win football games, but he was mostly concerned with making us into better football players, right? Better men, better brothers, better sons, and for some cases, right, better husbands, better fathers. So I learned a lot from each of them that have definitely helped me get to where I'm at today.
Awesome, Coach. And then kind of want to kind of as a preview for your video that will come up later in the week. You guys run the air raid at Kenyon, and kind of gave a little introductory video on that. I kind of want to know why the air raid, and then kind of where did you learn it from?
Yeah, definitely. So the air raid, why I like it is it's really simple. It's not designed to be complicated, to be hard to install. So I learned it from the coach who was the OC at the time. I was up there doing my master's at Bemidji State. So his name is Craig Bagnell, who's now the head coach at the University of Marion Bismarck. So he taught me, his air raid offense, and for me having coaching on defense, having to make the transition to trying to coach offense, there wasn't a offense that was better suited to pick up quickly and be able to install in a hurry. And it's easy to make adjustments. It's easy to, situationally, but the reason why I like it is because you don't have to have the best wide receivers. You don't have to have the fastest, the strongest, the tallest. You just have to have great route runners, play technicians that care about their craft, and you have to have a quarterback that is surgical with how he attacks the defense. So if you're familiar with Mike Leach when he was at Wazoo, Cliff and Kingsbury with Texas Tech and now the Cardinals. So I really focused on those two guys and how they call plays. What you'll see allows us to do 90% air raid principles, but then we'll toss in some other NFL concepts or some like cool things my staff picks up along the way.
Awesome, Coach. And kind of like the last thing before we kind of get some final thoughts is, and I kind of wondered this with a lot of coaches, where do you go and who do you reach out to when you want to professionally develop and learn? Whose brains do you pick? And like every staff does a little bit differently each offseason and how they professionally develop. But who are you reaching out to? Who are you? Obviously, you're watching like Wazoo film and other air raid coaches. But who personally are you going to go clinic with, do Zoom meetings with, and then like what does that process look like?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the longer you coach at this level, you make more friends. And one guy that I have really leaned on through my whole coaching career has been Mike Dovenberg. He's the offensive coordinator at the College of San Mateo out in California. So he and I actually went to the University of Minnesota together, have been best friends really since 2007. And so, our career paths have definitely taken different routes, but he's someone who I can send a recruit over to if I'm having a problem with defense. He'll kind of help me break it down and evaluate. I've got him, and then I mentioned Craig Bagnell, who's kind of my coach, my mentor in this profession, and then lastly would probably be Mark Davies, who was the former offensive coordinator at McAllister College up in the St. Paul. He was probably the smartest football mind I've been around in terms of how to fit the pieces of the puzzle together. So whenever I'm really faced with a problem or a recruit or just a situation I need help with, those are probably my top three guys that I'm going to reach out to.
Awesome, Coach. And then kind of the last thing for you, and as we talked about before it came on, and what I do with a lot of our coaches is, do you have any final thoughts on, is there anything on your mind you want to talk about football-wise, non-football-wise, anything you kind of want to mention?
Yeah, definitely. I think that, in today's, society and me spending the majority of my adult life in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, there's obviously the tragedy that, happened with George Floyd really hits home for myself, having that be home and kind of happen in my backyard. So hopefully, and obviously being a minority coach as well, having to be kind of the face and the hope for our African American and minority players that we have on our roster. I hope that all of you coaches out there really to take the time to, whether you have minorities on your team or on your staff, really just take 5-10 minutes and truly ask them how they're doing, because it's extremely hard to go through something like this and just kind of feel like there's no end sight. So as much as I would love to talk about football and all the happiness, hopefully that the more people we have, at the front of this Black Lives Matter movement, us being football coaches and in positions of leadership, we definitely have to be a part in front of the change that it needs to happen.
Well, Coach, I thank you for everything you're doing. I thank you for taking your time to talk with me today and give a little clinic out for the coaches across the country. I wish you nothing but health and safety over the next several months and until we talk again. And I wish you luck this season.